the recording. Thank you once again for joining the class this evening, and I'm happy to discuss some of the um, topics and concepts that I have planned to. But I am open to discussing anything and answering any questions that you may have. And I truly appreciate all of you who are reaching out to me with their questions. And I have been trying my best to respond to all the questions on time. And there have been some very good questions, like some of you noted, like, smaller, typos or mistakes in the contents, and I have corrected that. I really appreciate that input. But I've been trying to respond to your questions. But if there's still anything missing, in you would like to ask right here, I would be happy to answer that. If I don't have an answer, I'll find it out. So anyone just, jump in and questions, comments, whatever concerns you may have, feel free to ask. All good? All right. That's good to know. Any comments? I mean, anything you would like me to change in the course? Something that you like in the course or don't like? Uh, you know, you can write those in to me in email or comments, but feel free to throw your comments right here as well. I'm very open to comments, feedback, and I am very open to improving the course as I receive the feedback from you people. So you are my source of improvement for the course content and everything. Okay, so if not, then let me uh, clarify a few things that some of you might have in mind, even though I have responded uh, to your emails, to those who asked me those questions. Just in case um, you haven't, asked those questions and still have that in mind, let me clarify that. So one of the things that a couple of students asked is regarding the homework assignments, submissions, and the number of attempts. So for example, if, by the way, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. All right, so I just jumped into chapter 5 homework. And just to give it a try, right here, we have got three questions. And for each question, you have got three attempts to check your homework. So it does not apply to all the questions at the same time. So right here, for example, for question one, I have three attempts remaining. If I check my work right here, everything is wrong, and I have two remaining attempts here. Okay, I can check it again, and I have one remaining attempt. But when I go to question two, for example, I still have my three attempts remaining for question two, and same goes for question three. So just to let you know that this is how it's going to work, so that you don't have to worry about, like, completing all the questions and then checking your answer. You can do that one by one. That is one question. And regarding the exams, um, there was a typo that I missed. Chapter 4, probably in the syllabus, in the module section. I did not mention that would be included in exam one, but it was included in the assignments. I made the correction, so exam one will include chapter. Let me go there. Exam right here. So exam one will include chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. So that is important to remember, and that's also included in the assignment section. So if you look at that, it should also have the chapter one included, but that is not significant portion. So we'll be mainly focusing on chapter three onwards. And those are the couple of things that I wanted to mention. Is for the questions that I received from the students. Another very important thing to let you know is the group case studies. Some of the team members are working, some of the teams are working very well. They have they're conducting their meetings and sending me the recordings and also inviting me to their meetings, which is fantastic. But some groups are still inactive, not so participative, or maybe some team members are not active. Make sure that you actively participate in the teamwork. Okay, that is the essence of the whole thing. I mean, the group case studies are not too difficult to attend, and I have also posted, like, lots of videos regarding those um, case studies. So they are not going to be any difficult to attempt. The key here is that you come together, work as a team, and try to build that team spirit, especially in the online work environment. So make sure that you conduct your meetings, you are reaching out to your team members, you hold your group discussions, and you post your announcements. I'll be following up on all of those things, and those students who are not active in the teams uh, will, lose the points. Okay. Okay. So that is important. Now, what I've planned for today to discuss is some important concepts from chapter 5, okay, which is the time value of money. Now, even though I have already posted my recorded videos on these concepts, I again wanted to take you through those calculations so that we are all on the same page. Now, I have created these sheets for you just to make it easier to navigate. Chapter 5 is about the time value of money, which is the concept that, money's value is related to time. So, with the interest rate prevailing in the economy, if you keep your money idle, it will lose its value. And for that matter, you should invest it at least at a rate which is more than the interest rate or the inflation rate, so that you can save the value of your money and you can earn some return as well. Now, we may have different situations where, like, for example, in the first scenario right here, we have a present value. Let me make this slightly bigger for you. We have a present value of $5,000. That means I have got this money right now. This is in my pocket, okay? And I have got 4 years to invest this money. So that means I can spare this money for 4 years, after which I will need it, okay? And if I invest this $5,000 for 4 years, I can get an interest rate of 7%. So this might be a bank that offers me the interest rate, or maybe a company or a friend, or whoever. But that is the interest rate that I can get if I invest my money right now, 7%. Now, the question here is that what would be the future value? Okay, so this should be future value, and we denote that by FV, future value. How much will I get at the end of the 4th year? Now, I've done that calculation for you, but in order to do it at your end, you can use Excel to do the calculations, and it's going to work like this. we have got a formula in Excel that is called FV. So whenever you start a formula in Excel that starts with equal, that equal sign tells Excel that you're starting a formula. Equals to FV because we are trying to find the future value. And as soon as you start the parentheses, it guides you to what variables are required in order to do the calculations. So the first variable is rate, and that is bold right here. So we need to give it the rate. Rate means the interest rate. I denote it by I right here, and that is 7%. So I can click that 7%. And then you will have to enter comma. Then it is asking for the next variable, which is NPER, that stands for the number of periods. In this case, we have got 4 years. Each year is one period. Remember that in some cases, you may have 1 month is one period, or maybe a day is a period. In this case, 1 year is a period. If month is a period, that would be mentioned to you in the problem. And then comma, it asks for the present value, and present value is 5,000. And then it is asking for, sorry, this is asking for PMT, the next, after the number of periods, it is asking for the PMT. Now the PMT basically is the payment, okay? And that payment means that if you are to receive a constant payment through the investment term, then that would be considered as a payment in this sequence. Like if you have to receive 500 each month or each period, each year, then you will have to include that. But in this case, there is no interim payment in between, so we put that as a 0. Okay. In comma, it is asking for the present value. Present value is 5,000. And the last one is the type. Type basically means that when these payments take place. So in usual circumstances, ordinary situations, all those payments take place at the end of the period. So for example, if you borrow some money today and it is for 3 years, so you are paying it at the end of the third year. That's what we mean by that. So, that 0 means the payment is taking place at the end of the period. But in some situation, if the payment is taking place at the beginning of the period, you will put number 1. And in that case, that would be annuity due. So you can either put a 0 or you can altogether ignore it if it's taking place at the end of the period, because that's the normal routine. Enter it and you get the answer. Now that $6,553.98 is the future value of $5,000 invested at 7% for 4 years. If you do that, you will be receiving this sum after 4 years. Now this number is negative. That means that this is a cash outflow. You will have to pay it. And the reason is that this initial present value is a positive value, which means you received the 5,000 at the beginning. That's why it's a positive number. And if you received it, that means you borrowed it and you will have to repay the future value. So the future value will come out to be negative. However, if you invest this 5,000 today, that means it will be a negative number minus 5,000. And in that case, you will be receiving the $6,553.98 in the future. So that's the only difference we need to make. One of these numbers must be negative. Both of them cannot be positive because it's, or both cannot be negative at the same time. It's not possible that you receive a cash flow today and you will also be receiving a future value at a future date. Okay. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. And by the way, we already have posted videos about this. But just to take you through this one more time. We can also use our financial calculator. to do these calculations. So I have got my calculator right here. Excuse me, I still have some flu symptoms. So can you see my calculator?
Yeah.
All right. Excuse me. Give me 1 minute. Sorry. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so here's my calculator, and I have to calculate future value. What you need to do is to, whenever you use your financial calculator, you have to reset the calculator. So that's the second function, reset and enter. So that means your calculator is reset and all the values are set to default values now. Okay, now here are the buttons for us to enter the information. And we have got this information right here. We have got present value and the interest rate. And the interest rate, by the way, is denoted by I divided by Y on your calculator. So you can do it that way as well. You can start entering that information however you want to. So this number was initially a positive number. So let's make that positive so we don't have to worry about it. Now, 5,000 is the present value. So you type the 5,000 on your calculator, and then because this is present value, you click that present value button, PV button right here. And it is recorded as 5,000 present value. When that is done, we have got 4 is the number of periods. So I enter 4, and then I click that N button right here, which is for the number of periods. Now that is also recorded. The third number is the 7% interest rate. Now I enter N. One thing that you need to remember in your calculator is that whenever you enter the interest rate, do not enter it as a percentage. Right here, like 7, because it already recognizes if it's interest rate, it must be in percentage. If I write it as a 7% or maybe 0.07, then my answer will be wrong. So make sure that you enter the interest rate as that whole number 7. And for the interest rate, the button is I by Y right here, this button. So I click on I by Y, and that is equal to 7, which means 7%. Okay, now all the variables are already entered. What I want this to do is to calculate the future value for me. So I click this compute button, compute, and then click on the future value button right here, FV, and it gives me the same answer as I got in Excel. So that is my future value. It is a negative number because my present value is a positive value. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So you are allowed to use your financial calculator or any other calculator during your exam. But financial calculator will be the one that can help you solve the problems, very easily. So if you don't want to use Excel and you opt to use calculator, that's how you do it. Okay, now let's go to the next scenario. And just to explain, here's the timeline for the same problem. This is a 4 years, situation. This time, at time 0, this was the, um, you know, This might be the present value, which we just calculated. Present value was 5,000, and a future value we just calculated that, which is equal to this one. So this is the present value, and these payments we have got zeros. Like there's no payment in year one, no payment in year two, and no payment in year three. So these are basically the payments. So PMT and uh, these two are also what you can call the PMT. So we don't have any interim payments. That's why when we build our formula for this PMT, we enter the value of 0 because there are no interim payments. That's not an annuity. We'll be talking about that in more details later on. But that's how it works. Okay. And this one is basically the future value. Now, in a similar situation, but the thing here is that you are given a future value and you are required to calculate the present value. So what is the problem right here? What is the present value of $5,000 received 4 years from now and discounted at 7% interest rate? So the problem would be like, somebody asks you, hey, can you lend me some money and I will pay you 5,000 after 4 years? And you know that the interest rate in the market is 7%. Now, how much should you lend that person right now? Should you lend 5,000? If you lend 5,000 for 4 years and you receive 5,000 after 4 years, you actually lost your money. You have eroded the value of your money. But if you give that person less than 5,000, which should be corresponding to a 7% interest rate, then you might be just at a break even, or maybe earning a little money if the interest rate that you're charging is a little more than the inflation rate. So here's the problem. We have got a future value. We know that it will receive 5,000 in the future. And we know that this investment commitment is for 4 years. So that is N. And we also know that we are charging a 7% interest rate. So that is our required rate of return. What will be the present value? How much should we lend this person so that it is equal to 5,000 4 years from now? Now, for the present value, the formula is PV equals to PV. And as soon as you start building the formula, it is asking for the variable. So the first one is rate. We know that is 7%, comma, number of periods, 4 right here, comma, payment. Again, those payments are zeros, so we put a 0 for the payment in the Excel formula. And comma, it is asking for the future value, which is 5,000. This 5,000 is what we will receive in the future. In comma, the type is again 0 because the payments are taking place at the end of the period. But just remember, if the problem tells you that the payments are taking place at the beginning of the period, then you will make it as a type 1 right here. But in this case, it is at the end of the period, so we ignore, we put that as 0, and I got the answer. Now, what does this answer mean? That this means that if I lend $3,814.48 to this person, and the interest rate is 7%, and I lend it for 4 years, this should be equal to 5,000 in the future. So I should be lending this amount right now. Okay. Now, what if the interest rate goes up? Let's say that, no, I don't want to lend it at 7%. I will lend it at 10%. Then how much can I lend right now? If I change that, my answer also changes. The present value goes down because I am charging more interest and the discount rate is higher. Anyway, I'll change that back to 7%. Any question? Seems good. Now let's go to the
When it comes to the calculator, oh, never mind. You're doing that. Never mind.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So again, I strongly recommend that whenever you start a new problem, just reset it. Second function and reset, enter. It's all reset. because sometimes it stores the values and it may, you would be doing everything correctly, but it gives you the wrong answer just because it has some stored values from a previous problem. Okay, now we are calculating the present value. So let's, okay, class, let me, all right, okay, Samir just joined. Thank you for joining, Samir. Okay, so starting with the variables, we have got future value, number of periods, interest rate, and we have to calculate the present value. So you start, you can start uh, putting in any sequence, it doesn't matter. So let's start with the future value. 5,000, and we enter the future value button, which is now recorded that we entered future value as 5,000. N is 4, so I enter 4 and then click the N button. That is recorded now. And interest rate is 7%, so I enter 7. And again, remember, I don't have to enter it as a percent in the calculator. That's the trick here. And then I click the interest rate button, which is the I divided by Y, the interest amount per year, which in other words is the interest rate. That is recorded. And I have to compute present value. So that is the last thing. I click the compute button and then I click the PV button. And it gives me this answer, which is exactly the same that I got from my Excel. Again, a negative number because our future value is positive. And that's it. Any question here? Okay, all good. So please do expect similar problems in your exam one. You'll be given these scenarios. You'll be given some information to find um, future value, present value, and a number of periods and the interest rate. So these are the kind of problems that you can expect in your exam one. Okay, now going to the next scenario, we have got a problem. You have $3,000 and you want to invest it at 7% interest rate. Okay, how many years will it take to make it $5,000? Okay, how many years will it take to make it $5,000? Now, what we have a future value, which we know we want to make it 5,000. All right. And we know the interest rate that we are investing this money at. And we also know the present value, how much we have right now. Okay. Now, in order to calculate the number of periods, we use the Excel function equals to NPER, number of periods. Okay, remember that is one of the variables that we used in the above formulas. When you start the parenthesis, it starts to ask for the variable. So the first one is rate, and rate is right here in this cell, comma, payment. Same thing, we don't have any interim payment, so that payment would be 0, comma. It is asking for the present value. And present value is 3,000 right here, and comma future value, and future value is 5,000 right there, and comma type, so the type again is 0. Now if I enter it, it will give me an error. Okay, let's see why it gives me an error. You see that hash num means that I've got something wrong in my formula. The reason that it gives me an error is that I have given it the present value and future value, both is positive numbers. And Excel does not understand that. It does not understand my logic here in this case. How on earth is it possible that you receive 3,000 today and you will also be receiving 5,000 in the future? Okay, that's not possible. You either receive it today and pay it in the future, or pay it today and receive it in the future. So one of these numbers must be negative in order to get the correct answers. So what I can do, I can either make it a negative number right here, put a negative, and I get my answer correct. Okay? Or if not here, what I can do, I can make that number either the present value or the future value, whichever applies, negative within the formula. So I can put a negative right here within the formula, and it still gives me the correct answer. And that answer is 7.55 years. So it will take almost like 7.5 years for my money uh, to be brought to 5,000 from 3,000 at an interest rate of 7%. Make sense? Okay, now let's do it in our calculator. Reset it. Even that resetting is not, basically needed in these kinds of problems. It especially applies when you enter the cash flow information for a number of years. But still, I recommend that you do it. So let's put that as a start as a practice. Okay, so again, let's start giving the variables. Future value 5,000. So 5,000. And let me make that negative because one of these must be a negative number. So let me make that future value as negative. And this is a future value that is recorded. Future value as negative 5,000. The next one, the interest rate, 7%, but I don't enter the 7%, just 7. And that is the I by Y. Okay. And then PV, present value, which is 3,000. So 3,000, and that is present value. This is positive. I have already given the future value as negative, so one of them has to be positive. And what I need to compute is n. So I click the compute button and then click the n button on my calculator, and it gives me 7.55, which is the same answer as I got in my Excel. Sounds good? Any question? Let me see. All right. Please participate somehow, answer my questions, or so that I know that you are there and you are listening to me.
All set. Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Okay, now the last type of problem that we might expect is to calculate the interest rate if other variables are given. So here's the problem. You have $2,000 and someone promises to make it 5,000 for you in 4 years. Okay, so they tell you, hey, give me the money and I'll give you 5,000 in 4 years. Now, what is the implicit interest rate this person is offering you? What interest rate is this person offering you? So you have to calculate that interest rate in this case. And the formula in Excel for that is rate, R-A-T-E, rate equals to rate. And as soon as you start the parentheses, it starts asking for the variable. The first variable is NPER, number of periods, comma, payment, that is again 0. You can see on the timeline, the no payment, so that is 0. And comma, present value, so that should be this number right here. And comma, future value, it is right here. And then type is 0, and forget about the guess. We don't have to do that. So again, will it give me the correct answer? Is the formula correct right here? Hurry up, please tell me, someone help me.
Shouldn't one of those values be negative?
Fantastic. One of those values, either present or future, must be negative. Otherwise, it will give me an error. And if you do that in your calculator, it will also give you an error. So just that you don't get surprised, like when you enter the data and you say, "Well, I'm doing everything correct, but it doesn't give me the answer." Make sure that you don't do that mistake. So let's make one of those as negative, and I get a 26% interest rate. That means that this person is potentially offering me a 26% interest rate. And this seems to be, this is too good to be true. So probably this might, not be such a good investment because it's like, that much interest rate, but it depends on your valuation of the investment, and if you know the person or it's a good company, that's your decision. But the interest rate implicit in this problem is 26%.
Professor,
To
what
do
was
it,
the formula again in Excel for the interest rate? What was the formula?
okay, let me do that again for you. Equals to, that is rate, RATE, rate. It is asking for these variables, number of periods, which is 4 right here, comma, payment. So payment is 0, those interim payments, comma, present value, which is right here, this cell, comma, future value, which is 5,000, comma, the type, which is type 0, payment is taking place at the end of the period. Ignore the guess and enter it. It gives you 26%. Sounds good?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so this is pretty much a lot of it that you will be playing around with. So, just the problem would be given to you in different wordings, and stuff like that. But the concept is pretty much the same. Okay. Uh, let me
Yes, thanks.
let me give you another scenario right here. Let me do what do I want to do? Okay, future video. Let me copy this one. Control C. Okay. And here, the only thing that happens is, okay, which one? No, not that one. Let me copy the future video. Okay. Now, here's the thing, but the number of years are 4. Okay. And there's another thing. Payments are taking place on monthly basis. Number of periods are, if payments are monthly, or if the interest rate is calculated on monthly basis, compounding is on monthly basis. What that means is that the bank is still, lending you $5,000 for 4 years at 7% interest rate. But the bank tells you, hey, you know what? Even though you'll be returning this money to me at the end of the 4th year, but the thing is that I will be doing my compounding calculations every month. And what that means is that when 1 month passes, the bank calculates its interest amount and it adds it to the 5,000. And then for the next month, it calculates the interest on the principal plus the interest. So that is what we call the compounding factor in the interest rate. And that is done on a monthly basis. Now, what will be the future value in that case? What we need to do in this case, or let me just give you like, a little bit of brainstorming. So can you Can you work it out somehow? How are we gonna tackle this problem?
We divide the interest on the number of period.
Correct. So what we need to do in the formula, we need the number of periods, the number of periods. When you click on the formula, when you enter the formula future value, it is asking for this NPER, number of periods. Now we have to enter the number of periods, no matter what that period might be a year, that might be a month, that might be a day, whatever that is. It is the number of periods in which the compounding takes place. So now in this case, that 4 years does not go into the formula. We have to find the number of periods. Okay, and this will be equal to, number of periods are equal to, we have got 4 years and there are 12 periods, 12 months in each year. So we multiply that by 12. Now we have got 48 periods. We have got 48 periods. All right. And what is going to be the periodic interest rate? This 7%, remember, that's the annual interest rate. What will be the interest rate per period? That would be equal to our annual interest rate divided by the number of months in each period. Now, that would be not 1%, something like, 0.58% is the periodic interest rate. And when you have to find the future value, remember, we have to enter the number of periods that we have in this formula and the periodic interest rate. So let's do that. Equals to future value, the same formula, but just be careful about which variables are we entering. So rate should not be 7% because that is annual rate. Rate should be 0.58. That is the periodic interest rate. Comma, number of periods. That should not be 4 because that is years. Number of periods are 48. So we enter that one. Payment, again, interim payment 0. And present value is 5,000. And type, you can ignore that or maybe enter a 0. And you enter, you get your value. So that comes out to be $6,610. So the future value is this. You see now, let's look at the difference. What difference does it make? If the compounding was done on annual basis, our future value was 6,553. Okay, so it means like if we borrowed 5,000, we would be returning 6,554, almost 54, right? But if the bank does everything else is the same, but the bank says I'll be doing the compounding on monthly basis, then look at the difference: 6,553, and here 6,610. So almost like $63 more. You will be paying $63 more just because the bank is doing compounding on monthly basis. Okay, so that is another trick, and these amounts become astronomical when you are borrowing for a long period of time. Any question on this? All right, okay. Now let's move on to discuss another concept, annuities. And I have created this for you. Now, what is an annuity? Annuity is basically a stream of cash flows that take place at equal intervals, and those cash flows must be the same amounts. Okay, same amounts taking place at equal intervals. And you might be asked to find the present value of the annuity or future value of the annuity, or whatever the case may be. Okay, examples of annuity would be like your pension payment. Okay, your 401k payment. You make a payment, an equal payment to your 401k or your pension plan every month from your salary. Okay, Part of that is contributed by your employer, and part of that is going from your own pay, but that is equal payment every pay period. Pay period may be 2 weeks or monthly, depends on your arrangement with your employer. So let's take this situation. Ordinary annuity is where the payment takes place at the end of the period. End of the period means, like, if you are making contribution to your 401k, so end of the period is end of your pay period. You receive your pay, and part of that goes to your pension plan. So every end of the period. If the payment is taking place at the beginning of the period, that would be annuity due. So annuity due is not too common. In most cases, we have the ordinary annuity situation, but we'll also do these problems right here. Okay, now let's look at this problem. We have got an annuity, and that annuity is 500. So we are receiving 500 each period for the next 10 years. And you see that we do not receive anything in year 0. We start to receive that at the beginning of the first year. So that means, like, it is at the end of the period 0. So this is ordinary annuity. Payments are taking place at the end of the period. So we have total number of periods is 10. And let's imagine that our interest rate is 9% in our payment. In this case, this 500 is the equal annuity payment. Remember, in the previous formulas, we were putting that 0 for the payment. Now that payment is not 0. It is a number right here, 500. What will be the present value of this annuity? Now, what that means is that if you have to receive $500 each month for the next 10 months, of course, nobody's going to give that money to you for free. You might have made an investment at the beginning. How much that investment would be? How much do you need to invest at 9% interest rate for 10 years so that the bank or whatever investment company it is, it continues to pay you 500 each month? How much do you need to deposit with the bank? So let's find that present value. That would be the total investment we make, equals to, remember, we use the same formula that we used previously, but giving slightly different variables. So present value formula, PV, it is asking for the rate, which is 9% right here. Number of periods is 10. Payment, now you see here, this PMT, the payment is the annuity payment, the periodic payment, and that is not 0 in this case. It is 500. 500 payment each period. In comma, future value. We don't receive any future value, no lump sum amount in the future. When this annuity stream of annuity is finished, it's finished. So there is no lump sum future payment, so that would be 0. And then it is asking for the type, and type is 0 because this is ordinary annuity. We close the parenthesis, and that is what we get. If you invest $3,208 today, okay, and let's say these are annual payments, then you will be receiving 500 cash inflow for the next 10 years. Okay, so how much are you receiving in total? The sum of these cash inflows, if you would like to do that, you're actually receiving 5,000 in total, but you are making an investment of 3,208 today. Why are you receiving a total more than your investment? Because when you put this money with the bank also pays you interest for your investment for the period of your investment. Okay. Similarly, if you have to find the future value of this individual, same formula, but we need to look at the variables. Rate, 9%. Number of periods, 10. Payment is 500, remember. Present value, well, in this case, we're not receiving any present value. We'll be receiving a future value. So present value is 0. Okay, and type is also 0. Enter, and that would be the future value. Now, what that actually means here is that instead of investing your money today, the lump sum, and then receiving the 500 each period, what you do is that you start investing 500 for the next 10 periods, 10 years, and this is what you're gonna receive in the future. Okay, or maybe you receive 500 each period, but at the end you will be depositing this money to make it balanced. All right, so that is the future value of the annuity.
Okay. Thanks.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
All right. Now if it is annuity due, and annuity due, remember the payment takes place at the beginning of the period. So that would be equal to, again, the present value formula. The only difference is that the type is 1. The rate is 9%, same problem. Number of periods are 10. Payment is 500. Future value is 0. But in this case, because this is annuity due, payment is taking place at the beginning of the period, so we will make this as type 1, okay, instead of type 0. Close it, and we get this value as present value of the annuity. Similarly, future value of the annuity would be equal to the rate, comma, number of periods is 10, comma, payment is 500, comma, present value is 0 because there's no lump sum payment in the beginning, and comma, type is 1 because payment is taking place at the beginning of the period. Close it, and you get your answer right here. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, one more thing. This is, all of this that we're doing today is also your chapter 5 homework, and it's going to be a major chunk of your exam as well. So make sure that you understand the concepts. The last one concept that we want to discuss is loan amortization. Okay. What we mean by that loan amortization is that normally when you borrow some money from the bank, you receive the lump sum amount today, and then you make a one lump sum payment every period. And at the end of the term, you would have paid everything off. And that means you have paid the principal and you have also paid the interest along the way. And your balance at the end of the period should be 0. Okay. Now, and we'll have to build that loan amortization table right here. Now, look at this. Probably you need to pay a little more attention because building the formula might be a little, not difficult, but I need your attention. So what we have here is that you borrow a loan of 3,000 from the bank. So present value is 3,000. You've received 3,000. And this borrowing is for 3 years. Number of periods are 3. And the interest rate is 5%. That is what the bank is charging you. Now, what will be the monthly or the periodic payment or the yearly payment, whatever the period may be? This doesn't matter. Let's call it the period, just to remove the confusion. So the formula for this payment would be equal to PMT. That is the payment formula. Okay. And it is asking for these variables. PMT is for the payment. Rate, it is asking for the rate. So 5%. Number of periods are 3, comma, present value. This is 3,000 that you have borrowed. Okay. That is the present value. In future value, there will be no future value because when the term is over, you would have paid everything off and you would be clean. So there will be no future value So make that future value 0. And type is also 0 because this is ordinary annuity. Let's close that. And I get a payment of $1,102, which means that I'll be making this payment every period. And by the end of the third period, I would have paid everything off. Okay. Now, what you want to know in this case, particularly important, is that how much of this payment, $1,102, how much of that goes to reduce your balance, in other words, to pay your principal, and how much of that goes towards interest expense. And splitting this down is important because at the end of the year, you would have to, if it's like, for example, mortgage, or maybe this is a business loan, that interest expense is tax deductible. So you will have to calculate your interest amount that you've paid during that year, and you make it as an expense on your income statement so that you can get tax benefit. So let's put it this way. How much is our installment? The installment is $1,102, but that is a negative number. We are building a table. We know that's a negative number. We'll be paying this, but just to make the table clean, let's make this a positive number. So equals to equals to a negative this number, so that on the table it populates as a positive number. That's the only benefit that I want to get here, because I don't want a negative value on this. Okay, and remember, I'm not making a payment at time 0, because time 0 is when I just signed the contract. So no, I'm not making a payment here. That is 0. I'll be making my first payment in at the end of the first period. Okay. And what I can do is, if I click on this and then press this F4 button on my keyboard, this $sign appears before and after this column C, and that means that if I drag this down, it will still be referring to the same cell. So this one is referring to the same payment. Okay, the second payment is also referring to the same payment. The formula is not dragged down, so these payments are going to be the same. Okay, at time 0, I'm not making any installment payment, so there will be no interest payment, there will be no principal payment, and the balance would be equal to the total amount that I have borrowed, which is $3,000. So that is the balance of the loan right here. I'll be making my first payment $1,102. How much of this? Okay, give me a minute. My battery is running down. Sorry about that. Let me quickly get my charger. You can take some rest if you want to grab a cup of tea or something.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I'm back, but let's take that 5 minutes break. So it's 7:31 now. I'll come back at 7:36. 5 minutes break. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So let's start again. Come back, everyone, to the class. Let's get started. So we were talking about this loan amortization. So we are making a $1,102 payment each period because this is a 3 years loan. At the end of the third year, everything would be paid off. Right now, at time zero, we're not making any installment payment. There's no interest payment, no principal payment. The balance is $3,000. When we make our first payment of $1,102, part of that goes towards interest expense. So how much would be the interest expense in the first period? Of course, that would be equal to the loan amount multiplied by the interest rate. And the interest rate is 5% right here. So we click on that. Okay. And again, if you press this F4 button on your keyboard, this dollar sign will appear with this interest rate cell reference, which means that if I drag it down or right, it will not change. So the interest amount is $150. The remaining payment will go towards reducing my principal. So the principal payment would be equal to the total installment payment, which is $1,102, minus the interest amount, which is $150. That comes out to be $952. So $952 will reduce my loan balance. My new balance would be equal to my previous balance minus the principal that I paid in this period. So the new balance will be $2,048. Okay. Now, once I have this, I can select this whole row and drag it down. It completes my table. So you can see that at the end of the third year, my balance is 0. And as you can see, the interest amount goes down with the passage of time. My first interest amount was $150, the second was $102, and the third one was $52. Because as I pay the principal, my interest amount goes down because I pay interest on the principal. And when the principal goes down, the interest amount goes down. But I'm still paying the same amount. That means I'm paying more and more principal with the passage of time. So that is how this loan amortization works. Any question?
Can you go back over the formula for the interest portion? What did you-
Oh, sure. Okay. So let me redo this whole thing for you one more time, okay? So that you're clear. In year 0, we're not making any installment payment, no interest payment, no principal payment, and balance is 3,000 loan. In the first year, I'm making a payment of 1,102, but let me put that negative sign so that this becomes positive. And because I'll be dragging this down, so I press this F4 button on my keyboard so that the dollar sign appears. And when I drag it down, okay, it still refers to the same cell as payment. And these are now positive values just because this one was a negative. I don't want a negative value on my table. Okay, so how much will be the interest? Interest, we know the interest rate is 5%. And this interest is charged on the loan amount that we have at any particular time. So right now, our loan balance is 3,000. So interest would be equal to 5% of 3,000. And I can make this, F4 button so that the interest cell remains the same and multiplied by the balance. Okay. So that means the interest amount is 150. The remaining would be the principal. So out of the total payment minus the interest, that goes towards the principal payment. My new balance would be equal to the old balance minus whatever I paid towards the principal. So that comes out like that. All right. And when you select this whole row and drag it down, it populates. And then, it does the calculations correct. Let's look at the second year interest. That second year interest is again 5% of the new balance, of the previous balance. And similarly, the third interest is again 5% of the previous balance. So as the balance goes down, our interest amount also goes down, even though the interest rate is still the same. But because our principal goes down, our interest amount goes down, and our principal payment portion goes up and up. And at the end, we have cleared everything off. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now let's do a more interesting problem. Let's talk about a 30-year mortgage. Okay, now let me clear this. So I have created this table for you, but let me clear this. And you can see it starts from period 0, and I've got 360 periods because 360 periods are 30 years months. Like each year has 12 months, so 30 multiplied by 12, you've got 360 periods. So you will be making 360 payments if you enter into a 30-year mortgage. How much amount you borrow? You borrowed 500,000 to buy a house. For how many years? This is a 30-year mortgage. What is your annual interest rate? This is what the bank is quoting you, 7%, okay? 7% interest rate, but that is annual rate. Number of payments per year, because you're making payment on a monthly basis, so there are 12 payments per year. What is the total number of periods? Of course, that would be equal to the number of years, which is 30, multiplied by the number of periods per year, which is 12. So you've got 360 periodic payments. And what will be the periodic interest rate, the monthly interest rate? Of course, that monthly interest rate is equal to your annual interest rate divided by 12. That will be your monthly interest rate, about 0.6, or if you, 0.58% would be your monthly interest rate. Okay, what will be your mortgage payment? Your mortgage payment would be equal to the PMT formula as we did before. Remember, we have to enter the number of periods and the periodic interest rate to the formula. The formula does not know what you mean by that period and what you mean by that interest rate. It is always taking it as per period and the number of periods. So the rate would be the periodic interest rate, which is 0.58%, comma, number of periods, 360 periods, okay? Comma, present value, how much are you borrowing? That is 500,000. Comma, future value, what would be the future? When you reach to the end of your mortgage, everything will be paid off and that future value would be 0, okay? And the type, it's ordinary, payment are taking place at the end of the period, so that is type 0, enter, and you got $3,327 payment. All right. So that is your monthly mortgage payment, which includes your principal and interest. Remember, this does not include your taxes and your HOV and other stuff. This is your only your principal and interest. Okay, now let's build this amortization schedule. Starting with period 0, we're not making any installment payment at time 0, so that is 0. No interest payment, no principal payment. The balance right here is 500,000. So that is our total loan amount. Okay, how much is our installment payment? That should be equal to, and let me make this put that negative number so that this payment becomes a positive on my table. So and let's also press this F4 button because when I drag it down, it will still refer to the same cell. So that is a positive number right now, just for for having a clear table. Now, if I click on this, little dot right here, double click on that, it populates the whole column for me. And that payment is going to be the same for the whole duration of the mortgage. You see? Okay. How much would be the interest amount? Monthly interest amount would be equal to the monthly interest rate, which is 0.58%. And let me make that fixed as well with the F4 button. Monthly interest rate multiplied by the balance, which is 500,000. Okay. So that goes like that. If I double click on this, it still goes down, but these are empty numbers. The reason being that I don't have balances, because it is, you see it is multiplying it with the next balance, and I don't have that number yet. But don't worry about that. And how much will be the principal payment? The principal is the remaining. So out of the $3,327, $2,917 goes towards interest. Okay. And the remaining will go towards the principal. So only $410 are going to reduce my principal. The remaining $2,917 is my expense that goes towards interest expense. Now imagine that this is a very big number. What will be my new balance? My new balance would be equal to my previous balance minus whatever I paid towards the principal. So that's my new balance. And when I have that new balance, the next interest payment is getting populated. Anyway, you can select this whole row right here and double click on this year right here. Okay. Okay. It is doing one row at a time. But anyway, what you can do is you can hold it right there and drag it down. And there you go. At the end of the 360th period, you have paid everything off. And so that is your mortgage. Now, if you want to see how, yes, please.
When you're finished, can you calculate the interest portion, the sum? Let me see what number that looks like, please.
This one?
Yes, I want to see how much interest was actually paid in total.
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's indeed a big number to begin with. I didn't even recognize it.
Exactly. So let's find how much is the total interest that we paid. That should be equal to the sum. This is the interest, right? So let me add this whole column up. Your total interest payment is $697,000. So that means it is almost 140% of your loan amount. Okay. Total principal payment, that should be, of course, 500,000. But if you want to check it, that would be equal to the sum of this column. That must be equal to 500. Oh, whatever. Okay. Equals to the sum of the principal. And that is 500,000, which is, of course, your loan amount. That is what you pay. Interest in year one, how much interest that you pay in year one, of course, that should be equal to the first 12 interest payments. If you want to calculate your taxes and want to know how much interest have you paid in the first year, so that would be equal to the first 12 payments. So it goes up to that, right? $34,839. And suppose your income is 100,000, right? Your job income or whatever is $100,000. Then your taxable income would be equals to $100,000 minus the interest that you paid in your mortgage. So your taxable income would be 65,000. That's why we calculate this interest amount, because we get that tax benefit on this payment. And these payments are astronomical. Sorry.
Can I just see the actual formulas that you put in the principal portion and the balance portion? I just want to see the formula itself, how you wrote it over in the amortization chart, please.
Okay, sure. Let me redo that, okay? Clear? So, time zero, no installment, no interest, no principal, and balance is equal to the total loan amount. That is clear, right? Installment is equal to, let me make this negative, and that payment, which is the periodic payment, that is my installment payment. And let me press this F4 button, which means that the reference will remain the same. So that is $3,327. How much of this it goes towards interest? That should be equal to the periodic interest rate. Let me make that fixed with the F4 button again, and multiply this with the balance, because I'm paying the interest on the loan balance. So out of this 3,327, 2,917 goes towards interest, and the remaining goes towards the principal. So that is my total installment payment minus my interest payment. 410 goes to reduce my loan balance. My new balance would be equal to my previous balance, 500,000, minus the amount of money that I paid towards the principal. So that comes out to be this one. Sounds good?
Yes, thank
So,
you.
so once I have this first row populated, I can select this first row, okay, and then click on that little dot over there, and all this table is populated. You can see, that's how it is.
Thank you.
Okay, now let me show you one more thing. Like, you hear that the Fed is increasing interest rates and it's hurting the economy, it is slowing down the economy. So how much is it hurting everyone, this interest rate? So these days, like, mortgage rate is about 7%, right? What if you were able to buy your house like a year ago? At that time, the interest rate was about 2.8%, right? The mortgage rate. So instead of 7%, if we make it 2.8%, now look at this interest payment, and also look at your monthly payments. How much of a difference does it make? Let me make this interest is 2.8%. That is how much of a difference it makes. Your payment would be about $2,000 instead of 3,000 something. And your total interest payment would be, over the 30 years, would be 239, is against 700,000 in your previous scenario, in your 7%. So that is the difference that a 4% interest increase has on everyone, and it affects the whole economy and everyone. That's why the economy slows down when interest rate goes up. You getting my point?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's it for today.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, sure.
did you-
Any question?
Did you go over a little bit about the first group assignment and how you want the horizontal and vertical analysis?
Okay. Okay, let me do that. I have posted a video on that, but let me just
Oh, you did. If I missed it, I'll go back and look at it.
yeah, there's a video posted, but if you just want, I can go over this for you
Thank you.
really quick. Mhm. All right, so the horizontal and vertical analysis. Do you want me to do this one?
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so vertical analysis basically means to to convert all of these numbers into a percentage of the biggest number on the income statement. So what is the biggest number on the income statement? Of course, that is sales, right? Sales
Yeah.
is the biggest number. So we want to convert every number into a percentage of sales. The way we do it is equal to, in order to convert a number into a percentage, we take that number and divide it by the sales, by the number, the biggest number. So that would be, if I have to convert sales into a percentage of sales, that would be sales divided by sales, right? And multiplied by 100, so that we have
I did too.
a 100 number over there. Now remember that we will be dividing all of these numbers by the same sales. So let me make that divisor fixed by pressing this F4 button, so that the divisor does not change. Divisor is always sales. Oh, okay. So it's already, I don't have to do that. So the sales is 100% of the sales. Okay. And if I now double click on this, it does all the calculations for me. So that means cost of sales is 50% of the sales. You see? And these are the points that you earn. This 0.1 means that you got it correct. You earn the point right here. You see? And
Yes.
net income is about 9.6% of your sales. You can do the same for the next year, for year 2. But that will be all of these numbers divided by the sales of year 2. Make sense?
Makes sense. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Hi, Professor. Quick question. So
Mhm.
that the template that you worked on, will that also be available? I'm not sure if it's already there.
Mhm.
Okay, it's already there.
Yes, I will send it over to you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll pause the recording, and I'll also upload this same sheet over there.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome. If there's any other question, I'm always available and willing and happy to help. So please reach out.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
And thank you very much for joining the class. I love to have so many students attending the class and participating. Thank you
Have a good
very
night.
much, and have a good night.
You too.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Professor.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.